in a world overrun with the fake, delusional, and disingenuous. He stands as a beacon of truth. He is Abuki Cabal. You are listening to Abuki Cabal.
Welcome to the Abuki Cabal Show.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Appreciate all the likes, shares, and subs, and everybody who has been helping me out with the show. Today we're going to cover a topic that has floated around from time to time. Dr. T has talked about it. Dr. T. Son Johnson has talked about it. Don't know of anybody else who's really covered it. But if you're talking about the importance of being in a relationship, being married, or being in a long-term relationship where you may not be married, but you're together, and this may become a problem. And we're talking about sexless marriages. We don't talk about it that much in the Black community, but it happens in any community, whether it be Black, white, whatever. But with the phenomenon that is modern women, we are seeing situations where people find themselves in sexless marriages. So we're going to look at an article in Psychology Today that covers what happens in sexless marriages. I'm probably going to do a couple different shows going over this, because this is a pretty hefty topic. You have to see it. Mostly when we see it, and it's talked about from a woman's perspective. I'm going to look at it from what men say about it. But this first article is written by a woman, a PhD, and we're going to cover her thoughts on sexless marriage. So let's go up and take a look at this. All right. The title of the article is What Really Goes On in Sexless Marriages. All right. Let's cue it up here for you and get it going. Here it goes.
What really goes on in sexless marriages? Sexless marriages involve a loss that remains unspoken and, frequently, unaddressed. When sexual connection and mutual intimacy stop between spouses, they often stay together trapped in feelings of rejection, loss, anger, and resignation. The real trap is the silence, the inability to speak about the lack of sexual connection which leaves a couple sexless by default. Silent and sexless. Over many years of working with couples, it is clear that it is not easy for most to speak about sex, much less a lack of sex. I worry something is wrong with me. What do I say? I figure she is having an affair. Do I want to know? Masturbating to porn has become easier. I can't say anything. Living like this is too lonely. Stephen Mitchell, in his book, Can Love Last?, maintains that it is the very bond between partners that raises the stakes and makes it risky to reveal need, desire, disinterest, or dysfunction. Sexless by the numbers. It is likely that the reticence about sexlessness contributes to the limited data and research on sexless marriages. What we know, however, tells us that couples who have lost their sexual connection are not alone. In a study examining the decision to remain in an involuntary celibate relationship, Diane Donnelly and Elizabeth Burgess, 2008, found that 16% of married persons reported not having sex in the month prior to being studied. A 2014 Relationships in America survey revealed that 12% of all married persons aged 18 to 60 reported not having had sex for at least 3 months prior to participating in the survey. What the numbers don't say. Partners who are sexless may or may not fit the frequently offered definition of a sexless marriage as having sex less than once a month or less than 10 times a year. But the issue is not the numbers, it is the loss of intimacy, desire, and the inability to address it together to recapture it. What compounds the situation for many is that silence, often meant to protect, is often misinterpreted in a negative way. He is worried about performance, so he makes no overtures and starts watching porn. She feels rejected and angry but says nothing. She fears that she has lost sexual desire and avoids responding to intimacy by going to bed earlier or later. He feels rejected and resentful. He wants to say something about her never dressing up anymore. She wishes he would shave the way he used to. Neither says anything. He knows he is depressed but hears that antidepressive medication may impact sexual functioning. She can't get past a flirtation he had years ago. It keeps her unavailable. Both are really satisfied with more affection and less actual intercourse. But neither says anything, anticipating criticism from the other. Their mutuality goes unrecognized. Article continues after advertisement. Source: Tampere/iStocks. Presumption, projection, and protection. One of the reasons that we can't find the words to discuss sexual intimacy is that the stakes around intimacy feel too high. As therapist and author Winifred Riley describes it, intimacy comes about when one person makes a move to be closer to another, with no guarantee as to whether that move will be reciprocated. Accordingly, regardless of the status of the relationship, it is easier for many couples to just have sex, or, in many cases, refuse sex, than to speak about it. Partners often don't want to embarrass, hurt, or create tension, so they don't mention that the old robe is a turnoff. The sexual routine isn't working, groping is not an appealing invitation. The lack of compliments is deafening, or they are too depressed to be sexual. In many cases, self-consciousness, as well as shame, make it difficult for partners to share physical sexual problems such as pain for women or erectile dysfunction for men. Life gets in the way of sex. Somewhere in the mix of jobs, kids, in-laws, pregnancy, illness, and relocations, it is easy for partners to lose that loving feeling. Esther Perel captured it in the title of her book, Mating in Captivity. Under these demands, a couple can give up and lose hold of their sexual bond or redefine sexual connection in terms of notes, gestures, kisses, a quick hug, iMessages that say, "I love you, I miss you," or texts that say, "It's a conspiracy, the world is keeping us from hooking up." If a couple can't see the value in adjusting their sexual connection, to make clear in some way that they still desire each other, they may assume the worst and lose what they have. What research offers. In their book, Why Men Stop Having Sex, psychologist Bob Berkowitz and his wife, Susan Berkowitz, report on their survey of 4,000 respondents, 33% males, 67% females, which focused on people who self-identified as men who had stopped having sex with their wives and women whose husbands had stopped having sex with them. Both male and female respondents were given a list of 22 possible reasons for the man's not having sex or the woman's assumption of why her husband had stopped having sex with her. Article continues after advertisement. The first reason chosen by 68% of the men was, "She isn't sexually adventurous enough for me." The first reason chosen by 66% of the women was, "He lost interest and I don't know why." Even as expressed by men and women who are not couples, the failure to know and be known is clear. Another finding from the survey is that within the top 5 reasons given by men for not being sexual, and for women's thinking their spouses were no longer sexual, was anger. Anger is a common aspect of sexless marriages. It is often a wall that disqualifies conversation and connection. As such, it is important to underscore that anger is almost always a secondary feeling used to cover other feelings like fear, vulnerability, shame, guilt, depression, self-doubt, grief, etc., which often remain unrecognized by both partners. There is no question that pornography has and will always be there. In the Berkowitz survey, 25% of the men who had stopped having sex chose as a reason of preference for watching porn and masturbating. Of the women whose husbands had stopped having sex, 27% chose the same reason. Justin Lehmiller, the author of Tell Me What You Want, tells us that the problem is not porn, it is the misuse of porn as a substitute for sexual relating. He underscores the need for partners to understand their own and their partner's desires and to learn better sexual communication skills. Turning from a partner to porn is not an answer. If you are in a sexless marriage, you are not alone and not without options. Stephen Mitchell, in his book, Can Love Last?, reminds us, romance in relationships is a sandcastle for two. Everyone is faced with the challenge of working together to keep romance going and to rebuild when it gets washed out, which is likely. Start rebuilding in a way that puts you side by side. Invite your partner for a 10-minute walk on a regular basis. Plan a regular coffee break in a quiet place. Or start picking and playing music from your early days when you are doing a chore or driving together. When your partner asks, "Why should we do this?" consider responding, "Because we are here and I love you." Or, "Because we are together and you matter to me." Or, "Because we deserve this." As you go, you will know what fits and what may be a sexual risk worth taking. If your partner asks you why you are talking about sex or old memories, acknowledge that you want to speak about the intimacy between both of you but you are not sure how. If you get little or no response or even a dismissal, and you still love this partner, take a breath, believe in yourself, and proceed with confidence. Article continues after advertisement. Hang in there. Model what you want, the compliment, the note, the hug, small intimate steps. The overture may be hard to ignore. It may give you and your partner something to talk about. Love is a choice, not a matter of destiny. It is a choice renewed each day. Francis Alfar. Facebook image, Black Day /Shutterstock.
Okay. So there you have the article. And you had books by guys, you had books by women. Esther Perel's book is very good, and it does. She does a good job of highlighting, no matter what, who it comes from, whether it's the man or the woman, inconsistencies in thought processes and whatnot. She is very good. I had a clip that I was going to play on here. I don't know if I could play it or not, if it would be a copyright strike or not, but where she was talking to a woman who had stopped having sex with her husband, and he allowed her to engage with another female because it was a fantasy of hers, but she secretly was interested in women anyway, and eventually left him for the woman. And she basically said in her reasons that basically being a wife, she never respected her mother for being a housewife, and she didn't want that for herself. She said that was too hard. She just did not want to have to take care of a child and a man, and that was her view of what it was to be a wife. And it was a negative view that came up based off of, well, it manifested itself based off of her education in school and college, and pretty much her feminist beliefs led her down a path of basically hatred for the person who raised her, and damaged her relationships subsequently. So that was one, and it's very interesting. If you guys haven't done that, you can listen to that on Audible. And sometimes it's free. You may if you get your credits, you can use it on your credits that you get once a month. It's definitely worth the read. But I say all that to say this: a lot of the tips that they give you, that she gives you in the end of this article, all of this will work with someone who is reasonable. But if you have a person who does not want to talk to you, who has a negative attitude, refuses to talk about sex, does the lack thereof, tends to feel like it's a finger pointing exercise or some type of blaming issue, and not you just trying to have a conversation about it. If they're unwilling to acknowledge that sex is a need and not a want, and a lot of women don't feel like sex is needed, it's just something that you want and that you can actually live without. If you have a person that's like that, then it will be very difficult to do this. as a medical professional, what I would say, and I have a psych background as well, if you do find yourself in this situation, definitely couples counseling, not individual counseling, because this needs to be couple. You can individually get yourself together, but then that your significant other will still be in the same place, and that will not help you. You cannot force a person to go to counseling. If that person doesn't want to go to counseling and you force that person to go to counseling, you're probably not going to get a good result from counseling. And in the end, if the person is not willing to meet you halfway, doesn't want to have sex anymore, then you're going to be faced with a choice, and that's divorcing that person, trading them in for another person, and this is another reason why a lot of men, older men especially, tend to get younger women, because once women start getting menopausal, you start having situations like this. The attitudes change, the lack of desire, the lack of intimacy, those things tend to crop up. And, with, a lot of the talking points that you hear and that women are raised with now, you are at a detriment. You don't have a lot that you can do if you don't have a reasonable person who's willing to listen to you, who really cares about how you feel about this. And it can be either way. It can be the man no longer wants to have sex with the woman. And as you can see earlier in this article, where they were talking about, the woman no longer initiating. There could be, the increase in weight, which we see across the board in women. Just the general attitudes that just change. Sometimes people, once they get married, they feel like they don't have to do the same things that they did to get you. So you might be having incredible sex initially, and then later on, they feel like they don't have to do that anymore. Or like it says in the article here, where it talks about life getting in the way. And this is where I talked about in my last show, where we were talking about where, women want to work and they want to be these equal partners and they want these busy lives, but they don't account for the fact that when you have these busy lives, you still have to come home and you still have to take care of your man. And if you're not willing to be, or you're not capable of doing that, then that kind of ties into what you're bringing to the table. And if you're not bringing, the sex to the table, that's necessary, the intimacy that's necessary in the relationships, what does that man have? What options does he have? You have to look at that from an honest perspective and, weigh that accordingly. If you're not willing to have sex with your man, if you're not willing to wear that lingerie, if you're not willing to keep yourself up, if that is a second thought for you, and it's something that you deem to be too much for a woman to have to do, then you just basically opted out of your relationship. So the research is here in the article. I will put this down in the comments. Well, not in the comments. I'll put this in the description. And I have some others. I have there's a GQ article also. Don't want to make this too long. I will do 2 or 3 parts to this, and we will keep it moving. But you guys tell me what you thought about the article. Oh, let me do this before I get out. This part about anger. A lot of times, sometimes, it says 60% of the time, she isn't actually adventurous enough for me, is what the men said. So women become lazy, complacent about, what it takes to actually turn a man on. We are visual creatures. We have things that are unique to us as men that we like. And, if you're not, interested in trying to explore that and to learn about that as we progress throughout our lives, because it changes, it moves from one point to the next point. in life. So it's an evolution. Your life together is going to be an evolution. So if you're not willing to put in the work to deal with that, then just know that your marriage is probably not going to last. Okay. This part about anger, how anger is a common aspect of sexless marriages, where individuals tend to be angry with their significant others, and the retaliation is that I'm just not going to have sex with you. That is never a good thing. One of the first things that they tell you if you go through marriage counseling, which is usually spiritual, they'll send you to a priest or whatever, your reverend, and then you guys go through your spiritual counseling, which I think you should probably be mandated to go through couples counseling as well, to bypass some of these common problems that people tend to see when people start trying to have divorces. And you can't be angry with each other. That's the first thing to say. You never go to bed angry. You never keep sex away from your significant other. You always keep that fun, adventurous state about your marriage, and wanting to see each other. You can't be with someone who doesn't like to be looked at. Don't stare at me. I don't like what's wrong with me. Every time you look at them, and you like the way they look, then that's going to be a problem. If you like, seeing a woman in lingerie, and she starts out in lingerie, and then next thing you know, she's coming to bed in granny panties, then, there's going to be an issue. If when you met her, she had, a tight stomach and a nice, rear end, then, and then later on that turns into a big stomach and no desire and, cute face, and the rest of it is gone in the pot, then that's an issue. And ladies, we have to be, you have to be honest about what you present to your husbands. If you go back and you look at these older movies, you'll see that when men were coming home, or a woman was dressing up for a man to come over or for her husband to come home. I mean, she had a little area there where she had, like a gown that was not just some torn up, a mess of cloth. It was something that looked good, She had her hair together. She had her lipstick together. Her mannerisms were feminine. The way she talked to him was feminine. That is what men like. That's what men want in a wife. We're being presented with these, these unreasonable, unpredictable, people that we end up coming home to, that is just not, it's not a good thing. No one wants to come home to somebody that you're competing with, intellectually, that you have to wonder whether you're going to be able to be sexual with them, whether you're going to get intimacy from them when you need it, and this goes into a man's psychological and physiological health. But it is important, and it needs to be addressed and respected in a relationship. But I found this article be quite interesting. I will put it down, like I said, in the description. I hope you guys liked it, and we'll move on to the next one. I will cover this other one with in GQ magazine next, and I think I'll do about I don't know. I got a little a decent amount of content on this, so we'll go with this maybe this week. Let's see. But you guys tell me in the comments whether you liked it or not. Whether you found it interesting. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to address those as well. And you guys have a good night, good evening, whenever you watch it. Again, my goal is to hit 2,000 here by the end of next month. That'd be a good time. How about that? If you guys could help me out with that, I would appreciate that immensely. Thank you guys. Again, like, share, and subscribe. And I'm out.
I feel like a motherless child alone.